Welcome to the Leading Edge Podcast, brought to you by Superscale, experts at scaling mobile games and blockchain apps. Here, we will discuss all things gaming with various guests from the industry. We hope you enjoy.
Hi, Ian.
Hello.
Welcome to the first edition of our podcast. I'm really looking forward to this episode. It was in my head for quite some time, so glad that we made the time to make it happen. The title of the story is how to design, develop, and then maintain games that will be played for decades. And I think it would be definitely super interesting for the audience to listen not only about the past that you've talked about already a couple of times already, but how does NimbleBit evolved? What was the point where you decided what to do with the still well-performing games, but looking to actually develop new ones and think about how to make the community and the game still happy, and also the recent successes and how the future looks like for NimbleBit and how will it affect.
Yeah.
So
I'll try to keep the history brief. Since it's so long, we have definitely 1 decade under our belt. Here's hoping we make it to decades. Another few years shouldn't be that hard. But so we started on the App Store right almost at the very beginning. I don't think the app I wrote was on the first wave of apps approved for the App Store, but I think I got in there within a couple months of it being open to all developers. But it really started with me making a really silly little puzzle game on the iPhone and put it up there just for the heck of it. I didn't really even know anyone that had an iPhone at that point, I don't think. But after putting it up there, it ended up getting like 1 million downloads or something like that within a few weeks. And it blew my mind. I'd never had anything get that much exposure before. I was working a day job at the time. And so I quickly put up a plus version, as they used to be called, of the same puzzle app for 99 cents. And it started making more than my day job almost right away. So that's when I put in my 2 weeks, even though it was a job I had just gotten. So it was kind of weird timing. No one there really thought I was thinking clearly until I showed them how much money this app was making. So after that, I made a few apps under my own name. And then about a year or so later, I would say, joined up with my twin brother, David, to really start developing apps under the name NimbleBit. And that's when things really took off. What was our first game? I think Pocket Frogs was our first game that was really a substantial game and not just a little side project. And luckily, all our apps got featured by Apple. We were very lucky. And we were some of the first developers to really embrace free-to-play. And it was just, the right place, right time, story of a lot of early App Store developers. But after that, we made a conscious decision not to grow too much. We've never been more than 4 people. And so really, things just cruised along for quite a number of years at a pretty good clip. Our high point was probably when we got iPhone App of the Year for Tiny Tower in 2011. So
nice. That's and again, it's a obviously amazing history. It's good to be at the right time in the right place. I remember still when App Store launched, I was studying, and and my friend came to me with this article about like the farting app made like 1 million in the first 24 hours, and
or the
kind of outrage.
The beer drinking app.
Yeah, the beer drinking, the soda drinking, it's all the crazy stuff making just millions, right? And and as I remember, my friend who is still in close contact to this day, it's like this like righteous anger, like how come we're studying computer science, we obviously can program better than these guys, and you could see that the apps could be programmed better for sure. We deserve also a bunch of millions in our pockets. So, but yeah, but even though we liked obviously an iPhone or or actually any legal means back then to earn money from the apps, because it wasn't really supported in Central Europe, we still managed to actually register a completely made up company in Austria, which is the closest country, which could receive payment. So you could develop out of Slovakia, but you couldn't really receive money. But yeah, the first experience, just try to get there, whatever. Like a first tutorial, you download it, put on 99 cents, didn't expect anything, and actually it bought us our first iPhone out of the tutorial. So I think you were definitely a couple zeros more advanced by the day. But yeah, at the time, it also earned more than my day job, uploading tutorials to to the App Store. So I think you were already basically kind of a more experienced developer. You've developed a bunch of games. What I was thinking about, like considering when you chose, and I think this was a big thing, right? That all of the apps at the beginning were just premium or whatever, 90x%, either completely free or premium for the 99 cents, give or take. So the decision go free to play, I think that is one of the, I guess in the hindsight, one of the best, I guess, business decisions you could have made at the point, and was revolutionary, one of the first, if not the first, that do it with games iPhone. But I was wondering if you thought about the whole life cycle going forward. So we've seen how the premium apps, including the biggest like Angry Birds, just blew up and then they went down, and you need to release a new one. But if you thought about the kind of a durability or have some expectation how the life cycle for free to play could go differently compared to the premium apps that you before, like if you already have some, I don't know, in mind that, hey, actually, I for sure will maintain it for, I don't know, year 2, 3 at least, or it was also a bit of a learning curve for you. If you could shed a bit of light on it.
Definitely at the time, I don't think we were considering that much in our decision. We had always just been the ones to try new things because we didn't have much to lose. We had like no overhead. It was me and David in a crappy office. So before free to play was even a thing, we would do this thing a lot where we had paid apps. They were all 99 cents or $2. And we would change the app to free for like a weekend, like every couple weeks. And everyone thought we were crazy, because why would you just be giving away your premium app for free? But we got so much word of mouth and so many downloads from those free periods that more than made up for the lost sales, over the next few weeks. So I think that gave us our first taste of, what the power of free could be, I suppose. And so once the free to play option was available on the App Store, that's when we designed Pocket Frog specifically to be a free to play game from the beginning. And, I don't think we were considering that free to play games potentially had much longer lifespans and would need more support and updates. That's something that we learned ourselves, years later, when people were still playing the games.
No, so I think this is where it's get really interesting, because I guess also from your side of the way how you experimented actually the kind of the free weekends. Did you get inspired by, I don't know, the Steam free weekends?
What was huge? Yeah, what was huge back then was like free app a day. Do you remember that?
Yes, that was this massive app that you can get featured. Yeah, absolutely, we did that as well. That's true. But I think they got banned after some time, so you need to, I guess, do it by yourself after. No, but this is interesting. So considering you were always kind of trying a new thing. You didn't really want to scale the company too much. So what was the kind of, and obviously you get a lot of support from platforms from the get-go as the games were featured a lot. You get a lot of downloads during these times. How did you, when it comes to this point that, hey, actually you still have a very healthy game, a very healthy community, driving a lot of traffic, but at the same time, you'd like to develop new, experience something new, I don't know, new games, new apps, maybe even new platforms. So when did you kind of start it? How long it took that you kind of started to think about, hey, I need to kind of really choose where I put my resources in, and I could be maybe leaving something on the table consciously, but still like, what was the motivation? What was kind of a challenges, or what was the moments, if you could?
It took a surprisingly long amount of time to get to the point where the ongoing support became, I'd say, overwhelming. With Pocket Frogs, just supporting, one or two free-to-play games seemed to be manageable, and we still had time to play with new ideas and develop new titles. I would say things kind of got to be unmanageable once we had probably our 4 current free-to-play titles of Pocket Frogs, Tiny Tower, Pocket Trains, and Pocket Planes. That was a point where it seemed like all we were doing is working on updates for one particular game at any time. And it wasn't even exciting updates usually, like exciting new features. It was just, fixing whatever the latest version of iOS or Android broke, through all the titles every year, and trying to get in, bug fixes and small feature requests from the players. So about the time that David was thinking about leaving, it was already overwhelming. So once he left the company, and I was literally spending, all day for almost a year straight just updating our existing games, that's when I started to realize that, it's not how I wanted to spend the rest of my development career. I did enjoy working on new things and coming up with new things. So that's when I started to think, either I have to let these things kind of die on the vine, or I need to find an alternative. And luckily, that's when Lego, who we were working with at the time, introduced us to you guys.
So this is good, really interesting. So what was that? So if you could just put in the timeline. So from actually the launching, always, so there's like a prehistory almost with the premium titles of the apps, so on. Then you have this free-to-play moments, launching a bunch of your titles, all of them get a lot of features, attention. And then what was, so year-wise, so what was the point? It was like 5 years into the life cycle when it started being really manageable, 5, 6?
Yeah, then, so I mean, Pocket Frogs was 2010, and then we kept on adding a new game. Tiny Tower was 2011. Pocket Trains was, I think, 2012 or 13. And then Pocket Planes was 2014. So it took a couple years of having that full portfolio going and growing till things finally started breaking down, to manage them all. Around 2018 is when it probably really got overwhelming. So we managed for a long time, but it took David leaving, I guess, to make me think about how I wanted to be spending my days.
So actually, we were also kind of right place, right time, because around that time we actually started working with Lego. You started working on Lego, so I guess it was a happy coincidence.
Yeah.
And maybe if you would like maybe looking back. So okay, one thing is, as you said, not really creative, but more tedious kind of a work, mostly technical updates and whatnot. I guess some technical debt. You didn't design and program the games, so they would be managed decade later.
Yeah.
But is there but between the technical and let's say also kind of a motivation problem, like maybe getting a bit burnout by the content, is all contributed to okay, I need to find solution one way or another, so you can, I guess, get more satisfaction out of the work and get new stuff. So after 8 years of this. Well, actually, it's actually a bit longer than I anticipated, honestly. Like we've seen a couple of developers kind of complaining, especially if the game is successful.
During those 8 years, it was just a repeated cycle of us launching a new game, it not doing that well and pretty much failing, and then us going back to the back catalog, doing some updates on the portfolio, get distracted by a new idea, develop that. It doesn't do as well as as the old games. So it was just a lot of back and forth. And then towards the end of that 8-year period, it was, we had come to the realization that our safest bet was really this, catalog of games that have survived the test of time. And that's where the majority of the value of the company was. So that's really where we should be focusing all our effort, if possible. And that was, and that made me think, well, geez, are we never going to create anything new again? Which kind of freaked me out and made me, try to think of possible alternatives to that fate.
So what were essentially the options that you were considering, and pros and cons of, between growing the team to have some kind of a live ops maintenance capabilities in-house versus selling the portfolio or signing up with some kind of a publisher versus some kind of a long-term partner such as us. Like, what do you think were the like major points when you were weighting pros and cons? Why not sell? Why not grow the team?
So we definitely had a handful of options, I think, that we could have pursued. The one that maybe most business owners would have taken was to grow the team, because we had the resources to do that. But if you look at our history and see that we'd never been more than 4 people over 13 years, you'd probably guess that I don't enjoy managing people, really. Both our employees are longtime friends of ours, so there's not a lot of management requirements there. So that was pretty much off the table from the beginning, because I didn't want to spend my energy managing the company. I'd rather be managing products and developing new things. So the other option would have been to sell the entire company, but I definitely wasn't ready to do that. I love everything that we've built over the past 12 years, and I still think there's more to come from NimbleBit. So it seemed a little premature to sell off the company and retire or start something new. So the other option would be to sell the apps off individually, but I felt like that was pretty much like selling the company, because that is where all the value of NimbleBit was in those apps, and they are kind of tightly connected with our brand and have a lively and active user base that might not survive the transition. So I was kind of out of ideas until we started talking to you guys. And we had initially worked with Superscale after being introduced to you by Lego on just picking up some of the tasks that I didn't excel at or didn't want to do. So it was a lot of the ad optimization, ad management stuff. And that went so well and took so much off of my plate that's when we started looking at the possibility of managing entirely, the games in our portfolio. And it took a while to figure out what exactly that was going to mean and what we wanted it to mean and what would work the best for everybody. But in the end, it turned out to be a far better option than anything else available to us. And it lets us keep control of the company and the brand and still steer the direction of the apps and keep the games going and growing and potentially, adding even more games to the portfolio over time. So I'm really happy that, we fell into each other's laps at the exact right time, I think, for both of us.
No, like looking back at how we got introduced and how we got started, it was also a big revelation for me and the company. Like Superscale and the whole mission of Superscale is to understand and realize the maximum potential of games. And like historically, we worked like essentially from the beginning. We always relied, and our partner has a dev team that is actively working on a game, and maybe it's not optimizing enough or getting most out of different parts of its business, whether it's from the like kind of a user acquisition side to monetization side, and to really understand how these two are able to really bring the scale up. but the first time that we've kind of look at your games, we've just even just looking at the overall numbers, like we're like, wow, like these games are here basically at this point, like more than a decade for some of them, and still very strongly performing, the core community very active. There wasn't really much, as you say, like content or even some more excited update for a long time for a lot of these games, and still bring a lot of new downloads and revenues, while obviously kind of stagnating and slowly going down. But there was something obvious for me that, hey, actually there could be so much more stuff that could be doing, like besides the content and technical obviously updates, we could actually put in all the parts of what made Superscale kind of the full funnel analytics and optimization part. And then it was just about putting the pieces together. And actually, I need to say, like, you pushing us that, hey guys, it's great that you see a big potential in the titles, but if it's me to implementing all these SDKs and and doing all this job, it's not really going to happen. This is why I'm looking for something else after basically 8 years of doing it daily. And I think that pushed us also to the moment where we realized, like, hey, let's create something together. We really do believe in the portfolio. We do believe that the community that you build, and this is something which I think not that many developers, publishers realize, like that you're really the core fans will be, if the game is good, the game will never die, right? Yeah, they may stagnate, they may go down slowly over the time, but they will never die. Your best true hardcore fans will just keep playing. When they ran out of content, just uninstall the game, delete the app, download it again, do it again for 10 years in a row. So there's obviously something, and it was the first time that we actually thought about pulling everything together, using all the parts of hey, let's try the UA on different channels. Let's try the ISO. Let's try updates, content updates. Let's try relationship with platforms to invigorate. Let's do something like that. And before that, we mostly work with games, with established titles. Bringing extra 30-40% on top of the baseline. And this is honestly something that I'd expect that at least this could be like, if like 50%, it would be great. It absolutely blew my mind that with games as yours, it could be not 30, 40, 50%. It could be 100%, 200%, 300%, and still not really running out of ideas or hitting the limits of what you've built so far. So there's definitely a big learning curve from our side at how game designed that well and launched a decade ago, its core mechanics and being true fun. If we implement all the stuff that as an industry and also us learned in the last decade, and actually try to apply the best practices and all the updates that we've done, that we can get back. We can get. I think the first time that we broke the 7-year revenue record was, I think it was June or July.
Mm-hmm.
Then we had with the tweaked Halloween event, we broke the all-time in-app purchase record on Tiny Tower and actually across the portfolio. But then so this is something that I honestly I don't think I ever seen this.
It's impressive because to break the all-time, record for Tiny Tower. Tiny Tower had a huge launch when it was blown up by being app of the year. And so that's something to achieve this many years after it launched.
So yeah, and we haven't really stopped, right? Like we see, just understanding the title, working closely. So it will be soon. It will be essentially a year when we started this full cooperation after like some kind of a let's say pilot like period or the partial optimization that we did before. But also what we understood that really the core value, and I think you absolutely even I guess intuitively understood that this is your community, this is your players. If you just sell it by parts or sell it somewhere else, and maybe it's not the right time. Because also we understood based on the patterns that we analyzed that you really do have majority of players just extremely loyal, writing their reviews that how they use it. I think it's extremely satisfactory and happy about genuinely happy community about the title. It's also that rare to see.
Yeah, and I think on the whole they've been very excited by the huge amount of updates that have suddenly started coming through the apps, because before we would go years sometimes without updating one of them. So regular content is very exciting to longtime players who don't want to see the app.
No, absolutely.
die.
And again, I think that the whole community is will be tuned for the next big thing, and especially the end game content, which we, by the way, we haven't done yet. We've done a bunch of seasonal content. I think it will be great. Great getting your input as somebody who obviously understands the titles and the feedback and the overall vibe. But I'm definitely looking forward and expect the next record to be broken after we actually introduce the end game content for the Tiny Tower players. So all these core fans who need to delete the app to start again could have actually something to do very soon as a kind of an end game content. So yeah, definitely looking forward to break some new records with NimbleBit portfolio. Definitely looking for some new maybe titles coming soon, or maybe maybe a bit later, but but definitely coming. And ultimately,
Eventually.
how do you feel about this connection with the community, with the players, and something that you ultimately, I guess the direct channel was Discord, where I do believe you build up the most, I guess, real-time managed community for years to come. So how do you feel about the future as a community of a player that would be nurtured, and you would essentially able to give them having a even more direct relationship, and being able to send them announcement better than just push-ups into the ads. But how do you feel the future about when we see that platforms are kind of still getting a tighter grip of owning the players, getting less data about what they do? Have you thought about how can you leverage in the following years the communities that you built, except for the Discord channel?
Yeah, I mean, that ended up probably being one of the luckiest or smartest things that we could have done, is embracing our community of fans. And we didn't even go out of our way to create the community ourselves. I think, I don't remember how many years ago Discord started being popular, but we started stumbling upon these Discord servers full of our players for our different individual games. And they were great, sizable communities, well moderated by a dedicated team of amazing people. And so we didn't really take over these servers, but we embraced them and ended up putting direct links in some of the games to grow them even more. And I mean, that just supercharged the communities. And I mean, I don't know if developers realize this, but if you have a group of super fans, they do so much for you. I mean, they'll do customer support for people that stumble into the Discord with a problem. They'll do word of mouth, for you. I mean, it's been, it's gratifying too to see more than just angry reviews on the App Store. You get a window into people who love your game enough to be part of this community, part of creating it, or just being part of it. So I think it was someone from Spryfox where I heard the quote, you have to build a village, I think was the guide to success for a small developer, was building a village, because a community can see you through, a lot of dark times and propel you to even bigger things. So that's definitely one of the things that I think was key to our long-term success and keeping these games at such a great level for so long.
And that by the way is also something truly amazing. I don't think it's still underutilized or underdeveloped, the fact that even more casual games can have a really hardcore fans and really super engaged community, as you said, helping doing customer support for you.
Oh my gosh, when we first came across these servers and we saw like all the pinned spreadsheets and guides and strategy guides, I mean, it was stuff that we had never even thought possible or thought of ourselves. We're just like, and then like we ended up referencing all their materials for like customer support and whatever, because they had more detailed, calculations about how the game works than we did.
I also mentioned kind of getting involved in the community, even like a testing new builds, new launches. I think you really were ahead of time with embracing. And again, I think it goes back to this kind of a not being afraid of experiment, embracing Discord early on, building out a community, leveraging them in a certain way. So I think that's something to definitely to take in mind as a kind of a coherent strategy going forward. So maybe in last couple of minutes, if you could maybe sum up some set of advice or learnings about what you think you did right, or you think decade ago that could influence and are available now for a new for whether it's the new games that are coming on and that could potentially end up as successful as NimbleBit for such a long time, or also product owners and managers of titles which are this on the brink of being established, turning into legacy. What are the things that you think that a developer publisher, when it's honestly kind of already border lacks motivation to be, or lacks the scale, if the company also grew to another level? That's another reason that we see a lot of the companies kind of a sunsetting and giving up the titles. What do you think they should first think about before they do the decision either to stop supporting the title or outsource it or sell it and whatnot? Any piece of advice?
Yeah. So on the first part of trying to go back and think of what we did right, obviously the App Store and the mobile landscape is just totally different than what it was back when we started. A lot of people ask me for advice, and usually I tell them to invent a time machine and go back to 2008 because I would hate to be. I'm very glad that we didn't try to, break into the mobile market in the last few years, because it's such a mature market and there's so much more you need to be good at to have a good chance at success. So for anyone starting out now or developers who have had success in the past and are wondering what to do now with their stagnating app, I would say, you really have to, it's more of a personal advice perhaps, but you really have to think about what you want to be doing. Obviously, you have to wear a lot of hats. You can't wear every single hat. So you have to figure out, which couple hats you really enjoy wearing each day. Focus on those things. And then really you have to get some help in some way or another to handle everything else. Otherwise, you're just relying on luck, which works for a small amount of people. Never discount luck. But if you really want to, grow or launch something with a better chance at success than just relying on luck, then these days you do need expertise, and it would be rare for you to have all that expertise in your own head. So definitely, don't be afraid to reach out to people who know what they're doing.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ian, for your time. I think it was amazing. A couple of insights that you got through the time. And again, I do believe that we've published the kind of the case study a couple of weeks ago. That's how NimbleBit kind of get back to revenue numbers. And
take a read.
And I hope that next time that we meet, we'll be talking new records going forward. So I think we'll be able to also show the industry that there's a lot of value in older games, in legacy portfolios that you honestly didn't thought about because the techniques and the know-how available, how to do it, just wasn't back in the day just available, or you got other priorities going forward. So I think this could be really a way to show that as we see on PC, console remasters of games successful 10, 20 years. Yeah.
Movies,
obviously. Looking at Age of Empires 2, getting to record numbers with bunch of, actually got 2 remastered, kind of 3, I guess, the HD, the remastered, and the HD remastered, and so on. And altogether, it's actually became back then top 10 game on Steam. So I think this is also kind of a pattern that we see around. And I do think that actually the good mobile free-to-play games are actually the ones that are actually getting the least of it. So getting back to record numbers like Age of Empires 2, I think the NimbleBit is the one again showing the way after a decade on mobile. So again, thank you very much for your insights. Again, a pleasure as always. And thank for listening to our first ever podcast. So stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.
Remember to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And from all of the team here at Superscale, thank you for listening to the Leading Edge Podcast.